Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into a realm that promises a new world of love, beauty, energy, well-being, which is, a truly intriguing claim. It's a deep dive into a fascinating, maybe unexpected perspective on a really fundamental aspect of human experience, sexuality. And this isn't just about tweaking what you might already know, it's about exploring a whole new approach, really, understanding and experiencing intimacy, moving beyond a lot of the conventional ideas you might hold.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is how our single source for this deep dive presents this really comprehensive, almost philosophical framework
Hmm.
for understanding sexual connection, I mean.
Yeah.
And it actively challenges many common assumptions, things we've sort of grown up with.
And that source is.
Right, so our source today is the online academy LoveFlow Education. It's spearheaded by Alexey, who is described as a relationship sex coach. And he articulates this concept he calls holistic sex. It's a framework he states has been meticulously developed over 2 decades of dedicated work with individuals and couples.
20 years, that's significant.
It is. And the site itself offers a pretty rich array of specific components. You've got full in-depth courses like Holistic Sex Complete and Perfect Lover for Men. But alongside that, there's also a generous wealth of free content, insightful videos, podcasts, informative articles. It really does lay out a cohesive, sort of well-defined system for reimagining intimacy.
Okay, so our mission today then is to really understand this new vision of sex, as LoveFlow Education puts it forward. We want to see what it promises to give you, as the source puts it so nicely, and how it aims to fundamentally transform our understanding of what a long-term, deeply nourishing sex life can actually be. So we're here to distill the core ideas, the insights from this material, without, endorsing or critiquing any specific claims.
Right. The focus is purely on understanding.
Exactly. Understanding its unique perspective, digging into what makes it so distinct. So yeah, get ready for maybe some significant aha moments because this perspective is definitely designed to make you rethink things. Let's start with the foundational premise that Alexei presents. It's one that I think really resonates. He begins by addressing a feeling that many of us, maybe even you listening, might recognize. He suggests that, okay, maybe your sex life is okay. Maybe there are no problems.
Mm-hmm. Seems fine on the surface.
Right. But then he immediately follows up with this powerful, almost like a whispered assertion, yet you know that there should be more. That's not just a statement. It feels like an invitation, doesn't it? It prompts you, the listener, to maybe acknowledge that quiet whisper inside, that subtle sense that perhaps you're missing out on a deeper dimension of intimacy, even if everything seems perfectly fine.
Yeah, that feeling of, is this it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
For someone whose sex life is seemingly adequate, what could that more possibly entail? Beyond the conventional ways we typically think about sex, what is this profound yearning he seems to be tapping into?
It's a really profound question, and Alexei doesn't leave us guessing for long. He actually elaborates quite explicitly on what he identifies as this elusive more. And he paints a really vivid picture that goes way beyond just physical sensation.
Okay, like what?
He lists love, energy, full richness, vitality, journey, connection, well-being, aliveness, spirituality.
Mm.
I mean, if you truly sit with that list, you can see how it immediately elevates the conversation.
Right.
Far beyond what most people typically consider when thinking about sex.
Definitely. It's not just about the physical act anymore.
Not at all. It becomes this multidimensional experience, a landscape of profound depth, and he pointedly contrasts this expanded vision with what he calls the usual technique of fun. And he critiques what he refers to as the basic model by stating pretty unequivocally that it's simply not good enough.
So fun isn't the goal here, or at least not the main goal.
Well, it seems the argument is that it's not the ultimate goal, maybe not even the primary one. This isn't just about seeking more pleasure, although pleasure might certainly be a component, but a part of the richness. Instead, it's about seeking a deeper, more integrated purpose, something that aims to extend into every facet of one's life. The core implication here is if your primary or maybe even sole goal for sex is simply fun or just pleasure, then according to this framework, you are operating within a fundamentally limited model.
A model that can't deliver these deeper things he's talking about.
Exactly. A framework that simply cannot deliver the kind of profound connection, that holistic enrichment, and deep vitality he's describing. It suggests that while fun and pleasure might exist within this new paradigm, they are certainly not the ultimate or highest purpose of sexual connection in this holistic view. So this realization, this potential dissatisfaction with the existing, often maybe superficial model, directly leads to the perceived need for a new approach.
which he calls holistic sex.
Precisely. It's presented as an invitation to step into a richer, more fulfilling experience.
Okay, so if that's the compelling why, this deep yearning for more, let's talk about the how. How this new approach came into being, or at least how it was developed. Alexey states quite clearly, working with couples and individuals for 20 years, I have developed the next level practice of sex, holistic sex. 20 years. As we said, that's an incredibly significant amount of time to dedicate to a single, very intimate field. What does that kind of sustained commitment imply about the depth and maybe the evolution of this practice?
Well, it implies a lot, doesn't it? The emphasis on 20 years immediately suggests a deep kind of experiential understanding. It goes far beyond just theoretical knowledge. It implies this isn't some fleeting trend or a concept developed in, an ivory tower. It's something that has presumably been rigorously tested, refined, and evolved through extensive real-world work with countless individuals and couples.
So grounded in practice.
Very much so. It feels like a testament to a journey of continuous learning and adaptation. And when he frames it as a next-level practice, that phrasing is interesting, too.
Yeah, what does that truly mean? Next level.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's not just an iteration or slight improvement, but something fundamentally different.
Exactly. My reading of it, it suggests more than just an incremental improvement. It implies a fundamental paradigm shift, suggesting that the current, widely accepted understandings and practices of sex, while perhaps functional on a basic level, are maybe inherently limited.
Okay.
Next level seems to mean it transcends those limitations, offering a more profound, sustainable, and crucially integrated way to engage with sexuality. He explicitly states it's a new vision of sex and new techniques.
And that word holistic is key, I'd imagine.
Absolutely key. It fundamentally implies integration, doesn't it, of mind, body, and spirit within the individual. And just as importantly, between partners in the relationship. This is a clear departure from fragmented or purely physical approaches that might focus solely on sensation or performance, or maybe just a singular outcome like orgasm.
Right.
So if the vision is truly new, then the techniques that emerge from it would naturally be different in their intention and their application.
Can you speculate on what those new techniques might look like, based on this holistic idea?
Well, based on the framework, rather than focusing primarily on specific physical acts just for arousal or climax, these new techniques might involve practices that cultivate deeper emotional attunement, maybe mindful presence, or even sophisticated energy circulation. You could imagine practices centered on sustained connection, perhaps subtle energetic exchanges, or conscious breathing shared between partners.
Things designed to foster that bigger picture he painted: love, energy, richness.
Exactly. All designed to foster that multidimensional experience he lists. It suggests moving from doing to someone or for someone towards a state of being and co-creating with someone, where the entire self is engaged in a continuous flowing exchange.
That sounds like a very different way of approaching intimacy.
It really does. This evolution implies a shift from a maybe reactive, goal-oriented approach to a proactive, process-oriented one, where intimacy becomes this continuous journey of mutual discovery, not just a destination.
That's a truly powerful setup for this framework. Okay, let's now dive into what Alexey says this new vision actually gives you. The practical, the experiential benefits. The first major one listed is love plus connection, which he describes as real physical love, real connection, real physical conversation. Now that phrase, real physical conversation, immediately jumps out at me. We all get verbal conversation, but what does it genuinely mean for physical intimacy to be a conversation? How does that concept fundamentally differ from our typical understandings of sexual interaction, which often focus more on, discrete actions or achieving something?
It's a critical distinction, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really shifts the entire dynamic of intimacy. Typically, sexual interaction might be perceived as, like you said, a series of actions aimed at a particular outcome, like orgasm or maybe just physical release. But physical conversation implies something far more dynamic, more responsive, bidirectional.
Like a dialogue?
Yeah, exactly. Imagine it as a nonverbal dialogue, where partners aren't just performing actions on each other, but are actively listening, responding, and co-creating. Through every touch, every breath, every glance, every subtle movement, and crucially, profound presence. It means that the intimacy is this continuous, fluid exchange of information, feelings, and energy.
So it's not scripted.
Not at all. It's a real-time negotiation and exploration. Each partner is, ideally, exquisitely attuned to the subtle cues of the other, adapting and flowing together. Rather than following a script or relying on preconceived notions of what should happen, Think of it like a truly intuitive dance, maybe, where partners anticipate and respond to each other's slightest shifts, creating this unique language spoken just between their two bodies.
Okay, I can picture that.
And this concept moves beyond just focusing on individual gratification to a truly shared experience of profound intimacy. The promise here isn't just fleeting pleasure, but to actually generate love and connection for your relationship, and to have a true journey together through worlds of beauty.
Worlds of beauty. That's quite poetic.
It is. And it suggests this isn't just about feeling good in the moment. It's about actively building, strengthening, deepening the relational fabric through every sexual interaction. It aims for true emotional richness, soulful variety, which goes far beyond surface-level pleasure. It taps into the emotional and spiritual dimensions of connection, transforming the act into a shared exploration of inner landscapes, mutual understanding, and profound bonding.
So experiencing your partner more completely?
Exactly. Not just physically, but as a complete, evolving being with whom you are having a continuous, deeply nourishing exchange.
Building on that profound sense of connection, the concept also promises greater richness. This is initially described as greater richness of feeling and sensation. Okay, that makes sense. But then it immediately expands to a greater understanding of your body, mind, and feeling together. That's particularly interesting because it's clearly not just about more intense sensations, but a more integrated awareness. What does that integrated understanding truly look like in practice?
That's a great question. This point seems to be about expanding the very palette of experience within intimacy. Often, discussions around sexual sensation are quite narrow, maybe focusing on a few key areas or types of pleasure.
Right, the usual hotspots.
Exactly. This holistic approach suggests a much broader, more nuanced spectrum of feelings, both physical and emotional experienced simultaneously and interdependently. A greater understanding of your body, mind, and feeling together implies, I think, a heightened interoception.
Interoception.
Yeah, which simply means a deeper, more refined awareness of your internal bodily states and sensations, basically becoming intimately attuned to your body's subtle signals from within, combined with an understanding of how your thoughts and emotions are intricately intertwined with those physical sensations.
So really paying attention inwardly.
Precisely. It suggests that by cultivating mindfulness, presence, and a gentle curiosity during intimacy, one can perceive a wider array of subtle energies, textures, emotional nuances, things that might otherwise be overlooked when you're focused purely on a singular outcome or a peak experience.
Okay, so how would someone practically cultivate this new range, depth, variety, and beauty in their sex life, especially if they feel like they've already explored a lot?
Well, one might actively explore different paces and rhythms, moving beyond habitual patterns. This could involve bringing conscious, shared breath into the experience, or focusing on sustained connection and energetic flow rather than just rapid escalation to climax. It might even involve exploring non-orgasmic forms of intimacy that emphasize prolonged states of subtle arousal and deep energetic exchange.
Spending more time in those subtle spaces.
Exactly. Imagine spending more time in the liminal spaces of intimacy, allowing sensations to unfold slowly, noticing the delicate interplay of touch, breath, emotion. The idea is to deliberately break free from a maybe limited menu of sexual experiences, and instead treat the body and the interaction as this infinite landscape for discovery.
So, always something new to find within the connection itself.
That seems to be the promise. In this space, every touch, every breath, every glance holds the potential for novel sensations and deeper emotional resonance, fostering a continuous learning process about oneself and one's partner, leading to a truly dynamic and endlessly evolving sexual journey rather than something static or predictable.
This concept of expanded awareness and integrated experience leads us directly to another core promise, and it's a big one: energy. The source emphasizes sexuality as a powerful energy that is nourishing for your heart and soul. Now, this sounds like a truly fundamental shift from how many people typically perceive sexual energy. How does this compare to common perceptions? Often it's framed as an expenditure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a common view: sex as an expenditure, a release.
So more importantly, how can sexual energy actually be a source of well-being and transformative power, rather than something that just gets consumed or released, potentially leaving you feeling drained afterwards?
This is indeed a key departure, a really central point in this holistic view, which, as you said, often equates sexual activity with a release or an expenditure of energy, something that might even leave you feeling drained or needing recovery.
Right.
Alexey's framework posits the exact opposite, that sexuality, when approached holistically, can be a profound source, one that actively feeds your well-being and is transforming your daily life. It's about a regenerative process, not a depleting one.
Regenerative, not depleting. How does that work?
Well, the idea is that when sex is approached with intention, focusing on connection, love, mindful engagement, rather than solely on climax or performance, it's suggested that the energy isn't just released. It can be actively circulated, amplified, and integrated into the entire being.
Okay.
Think of it less like burning fuel in a furnace
Yeah.
and more like charging a battery or cultivating a renewable resource. This is where the concept of energy that works for you comes into play, creating that stark contrast with energy that takes from you.
So if sex is truly nourishing in this way,
Then the act itself can revitalize you, boost your mood, enhance your cognitive function, increase your overall vitality throughout the day. Hypothetically, imagine waking up after intimate connection feeling not just relaxed but genuinely invigorated, with a clear mind, a sense of creative flow that carries into your work or daily interactions.
that's a very different picture.
Isn't it? It implies that this sexual energy, when properly understood and maybe channeled, can fuel creativity, productivity, emotional resilience, overall aliveness, in areas of life completely separate from the bedroom. It's a complete paradigm shift from viewing sex as just a physical outlet to seeing it as the fundamental wellspring of life force.
Flowing through you, sustaining you.
Exactly, sustaining your entire existence. The profound implication is that a conscious, holistic approach to sexuality can actually enhance your daily life and overall sense of aliveness, making you feel consistently more vibrant and energized, rather than periodically depleted. It reframes intimacy as a generator of personal power and well-being.
If sex is truly a source of nourishing energy that replenishes you, that naturally brings us to the promise of longevity. This is a profoundly practical benefit, isn't it? It directly addresses a really common, often disheartening challenge in relationships, maintaining sexual vitality over time.
The spark fading.
Right. Alexey elaborates on this, stating it's a sex life that really works for a long relationship. He adds that it regenerates sustainably, grows and evolves with your relationship, stays out of routine. And then, always new worlds, new places, new depths, keeps feeding your relationship with energy and love. I mean, that's a monumental promise for something that so often seems to fade or become rote and predictable over the years.
It really is. And this point directly tackles one of the most persistent, relatable issues in long-term relationships, the decline or stagnation of sexual vitality. The conventional approach, often focused on novelty, performance, or maybe a limited range of experiences, typically struggles to sustain interest and passion over decades.
We hear about that all the time.
Exactly. Holistic sex, however, seems to offer a compelling solution by reframing sex not as a static, finite act, but as this living, evolving process. When sex is viewed as that physical conversation and a source of nourishing energy, it fundamentally changes the dynamic.
How does it regenerate sustainably?
Well, it regenerates sustainably precisely because it's not about depleting reserves, but about cultivating, generating, and circulating energy. It's like a finely tuned ecosystem, maybe, that continually replenishes itself. It grows and evolves with your relationship because, presumably, as partners deepen their emotional bond, their communication, their self-awareness, their sexual expression naturally matures and expands to reflect that evolving connection.
So the sex changes as the relationship changes.
That seems to be the idea. Imagine a couple who, after decades together, find new depths of understanding through subtle nonverbal cues during intimacy, or discover new energetic connections simply by holding prolonged eye contact and synchronizing breath, rather than needing constant external novelty.
So the new worlds are internal.
Exactly. The always new worlds, new places, new depths aren't necessarily about needing new partners or exotic locations. They are about the infinite internal landscapes that can be explored within a committed, deeply connected partnership. When intimacy is a source of profound understanding, emotional richness, spiritual insight, it inherently stays out of routine. Because each encounter is a fresh opportunity for discovery, a reflection of the dynamic, ever-changing nature of the individuals and the relationship itself.
That makes sense. Shifting the focus inward.
Right. This approach shifts the focus from just avoiding boredom or needing external stimulation to actively pursuing internal growth and deeper connection. This ensures, ideally, that sexual intimacy remains a vibrant, animating force that continually enriches the relationship, rather than becoming a chore, a performance, or an afterthought. It emphasizes the journey, the continuous unfolding of shared experience, rather than just reaching a single destination.
And here's an intriguing claim that seems almost paradoxical when you consider the profound benefits of energy and longevity we've just discussed. Easy to maintain. Alexey says there's no need for lots of time, energy, and intensity. Now, this appears to fly in the face of what many might assume about cultivating a truly deep and fulfilling intimate life. How can something that promises such profound enrichment, love, beauty, energy, well-being, also be easy to maintain
Hmm.
and not demand lots of time, energy, and intensity? It almost sounds too good to be true for something so vital. What's the secret to the supposed ease?
It is indeed a paradox, isn't it? From a conventional perspective, anyway.
Yeah.
And it highlights a critical transformative distinction within this holistic framework. We often associate profound, deeply enriching experiences with significant effort, right? Arduous practice or specific conditions like needing lots of time, energy, and intensity, or maybe the perfect mood, the perfect setting,
Yeah, it feels like it should take effort.
right? But this concept suggests a fundamental shift away from that performance-based or effortful model of sex towards something more intrinsic, more effortless, something that organically flows from the holistic understanding. The core idea, as Alexey puts it, is a sex life that is a true source and works for you, doesn't take from you.
Back to that nourishing energy idea.
Exactly. If sexual energy is truly nourishing and regenerative, as we've discussed, then engaging in it doesn't drain you, it replenishes you. This means that instead of having to carve out specific large blocks of time or muster immense effort for some intense experience, intimacy becomes more integrated and natural. It flows maybe as a spontaneous, deeply connected expression of aliveness and mutual presence.
So less pressure to perform or make it a big event.
That seems to be the implication. Imagine a shift from sex feeling like another item on your to-do list, a demanding obligation, to something that naturally enhances and supports your daily life. It implies that quality isn't measured necessarily by duration or physical exertion, but by the depth of presence, connection, and energetic exchange. It stands in stark contrast to that common feeling of sex being another demand or chore in an already busy life.
Something you have to make time for.
Right, or be in the mood for. Now, initially, there might be a mindset shift required, sure, a conscious reevaluation of what intimacy means. That might feel challenging at first as you maybe shed old patterns, but over time, as the holistic principles are integrated, the very nature of intimacy is said to transform into something that truly supports and energizes your existence. Rather than adding to your list of strenuous obligations, it cultivates a state where intimacy is perhaps a continuous, subtle undercurrent, easily accessible and profoundly fulfilling, regardless of external circumstances. Because it's no longer about striving, but about natural flow and reception.
And finally, the highest aspiration for this energy, perhaps the ultimate dimension, spirituality. Alexey declares, this is the way to live your sexuality spiritually. Now, this really pushes the boundaries of conventional understanding for many people. For those who typically view sex as purely physical or maybe just emotional, what does it genuinely mean for sexuality to be spiritual? And how does this concept seamlessly integrate with all the other benefits we've discussed? Love, connection, energy, richness, longevity, to form a unified experience.
This is truly where the holistic aspect culminates, I think, and reveals its full scope. For many, as you say, sexuality is seen as purely physical pleasure, or at best a source of emotional bonding. To frame it as spiritual elevates it to a realm of transcendence, deeper meaning, and profound unity.
How does that connection happen?
Well, when seamlessly combined with the other benefits that profound love and connection, the nourishing regenerative energy, the expanded richness of feeling, the promise of longevity sexuality, transforms into a potentially potent pathway for profound personal and relational growth. It suggests that through intimate connection, individuals can experience states of heightened awareness, unity, even a deep sense of the sacred.
Can you give an example of what that might feel like?
Imagine moments where the sensation isn't just physical pleasure, but maybe an overwhelming feeling of peace or expansion, or a deep, profound connection that feels almost sacred, like a meditation shared between two people. This could manifest as feeling deeply connected not just to your partner, but maybe to a universal life force, or experiencing moments of profound awe, expanded consciousness, where the boundaries between self and others seem to dissolve, even momentarily.
So the physical becomes a doorway.
Exactly. It implies that the physical act becomes a doorway to an inner, more profound experience, where the physical is a vehicle for the transcendent. This positions sex not just as a means for pleasure or procreation, but as a conscious practice, one that can foster self-realization, maybe emotional healing, and a deeper understanding of one's place in the universe. It's about seeing the divine, perhaps, in the human connection, allowing the intimate encounter to become a form of meditation, a prayer, or a deeply unifying ritual,
integrating body, mind, and spirit.
into a unified, sacred experience the energy cultivated, the love generated, the richness experience, they all contribute to the spiritual dimension, making it an integral part of one's overall well-being and path to aliveness, shifting intimacy from merely an act to a profound state of being.
Now, to reinforce these profound benefits and truly understand the distinct, almost revolutionary nature of holistic sex, let's turn our attention to some insights drawn directly from Alexey's blog content. The titles themselves are incredibly provocative, aren't they? They challenge core assumptions. For instance, sexual release is not the purpose of sex, and sex is not pleasure. It's something far greater.
Yeah, those definitely grab your attention.
They do. These statements directly contradict what many people have been taught, or maybe instinctively believe, about the fundamental purpose of sex. So if release and pleasure are not the primary purpose, then what is the overarching purpose within this holistic framework? And how does that reframing fundamentally change how one engages in intimacy?
These statements are indeed fundamental challenges to prevailing views, which, as we've touched on, so often reduce sex to either a tension release mechanism or as simply a pursuit of physical pleasure. If those aren't the primary purposes, then Alexey's answer, as we've seen throughout this deep dive, lies in that more we discussed earlier.
Love, connection, energy.
Right. Love, connection, nourishing energy, well-being, vitality, and ultimately spirituality. This reframing completely shifts how one might approach and engage in sexual activity, moving away from a purely goal-oriented mindset towards a process-oriented one.
From destination to journey.
Something like that. Instead of focusing on achieving a specific endpoint like orgasm or intense singular pleasure, the focus shifts to the process of connection, the exchange of energy, the state of being that is co-created with a partner. For example, if release isn't the main purpose, then the emphasis might be on sustaining arousal, maybe circulating energy throughout the body, extending the intimate connection without necessarily aiming for a specific singular climax every time.
Okay.
This means that a sexual encounter isn't necessarily over once climax is reached. It can continue to be a source of connection and nourishment, a sustained flow of energy and love. You can see how this might alleviate performance anxiety, right? If the emphasis shifts from a specific outcome to a shared experience.
Absolutely. Takes the pressure off.
Exactly. And when sex is something far greater than mere pleasure, it implies that while sensations are certainly present and appreciated, they are part of a richer, more expansive tapestry, one that includes deep emotional intimacy, energetic resonance, perhaps even moments of spiritual awakening. It's about a continuous flow and exchange, where the act is a means to deepen the relationship and personal vitality, rather than just a momentary burst of sensation. This fundamentally changes the intention behind intimacy, moving it from potentially a purely physical, goal-oriented activity to a more expansive, process-oriented state of profound connection and mutual growth, which hopefully alleviates the pressure and maybe boredom sometimes associated with more conventional approaches.
So, if not release or simply pleasure, then what is presented as the most powerful force in this new vision? The blog titles provide a pretty clear answer. Why love is the most powerful sexual technique, and love is the most powerful energy in sex. This places love in a truly unique and central position, describing it as both a technique and an energy. That's fascinating. What does it mean practically for love to be a sexual technique?
Yeah, that phrasing is really striking, isn't it?
It is. And how does this incredibly high valuation of love connect to the idea that sex is nourishment, not entertainment?
Okay, this is a crucial point that truly distinguishes holistic sex, I think, and provides a kind of practical guide. When love is described as a sexual technique, it means it's not just a feeling you hope is there or a prerequisite for intimacy. It's presented as an active ingredient, a method, a fundamental how-to for engaging in sex within this framework.
An active application of love.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests that consciously bringing love, care, emotional attunement into the physical act itself can profoundly alter and deepen the experience. As a technique, it means you actively apply love through, say, your mindful presence, your gentle yet intentional touch, your unwavering attention to your partner's subtle cues, your heartfelt intention, rather than focusing predominantly on mechanical actions or maybe pre-programmed routines.
So emotion over mechanics.
It elevates the emotional and energetic aspects above the purely physical ones, yes.
Yeah.
Making the quality of connection and the depth of mutual affection the primary driver. It suggests that the most effective way to create a deeply satisfying, regenerative, transformative sexual experience isn't necessarily through mastering complex physical maneuvers, but through cultivating and expressing genuine, perhaps even unconditional love.
And as an energy.
Simultaneously, love is the most powerful energy in sex. positions love as the very fuel, the animating force behind the entire experience. It's the vibrant current that allows for the flow of nourishment and deep connection, making the intimate space dynamic and alive. And this ties directly into the statement, sex is nourishment, not entertainment.
Right. Tell me more about that distinction, nourishment versus entertainment.
Well, consider the difference. Entertainment is typically transient, right? Often external, consumed passively, maybe for momentary distraction. It doesn't necessarily sustain you over time.
Like watching a movie or playing a game.
Exactly. Nourishment, on the other hand, is sustaining. It's internal. It's vital. It actively contributes to your growth, your vitality, your overall well-being. It provides continuous benefits. So if sex is truly nourishment, it implies that it's something you actively receive from, something that builds you up and replenishes you physically, emotionally, energetically.
Providing a continuous vitalizing aspect to the relationship?
That's the idea, extending far beyond the bedroom. This reframing suggests that intimacy should be integrated into daily life in a way that consistently contributes to overall vitality. Much like healthy food sustains the body, or deep sleep restores the mind. It becomes less about grand, infrequent spectacles, and perhaps more about consistent, vitalizing exchanges that continually feed the relationship and the individuals within it, ensuring it doesn't become boring or a chore, but remains a profound source of life.
Okay, so with all these profound philosophical shifts, the natural question becomes, how practical is this new approach? Is it actually doable? Alexey addresses this directly, claiming that holistic sex is easy, relevant, and practical, and crucially that any person can take sexuality to new levels of love, energy, and well-being. Now, that's a bold and incredibly hopeful claim, especially given how deeply it redefines something so fundamental. What makes it easy, relevant, and practical, despite its seemingly profound goals?
It's a fair question, and this is precisely where the concept moves from abstract philosophy to, hopefully, accessible, actionable application, making it deeply relatable. The ease likely stems from the idea that this isn't about complex physical acrobatics or mastering obscure techniques or some kind of esoteric ritual. Instead, it seems to be primarily about a fundamental shift in mindset and intention.
Back to love and energy as the core.
Right. If love and energy are presented as the primary techniques and purposes, then the core practices likely involve cultivating those qualities within oneself and the relationship. And those are universally accessible human capacities, aren't they?
True.
It becomes relevant because it directly addresses that universal human desire for deeper connection, meaning vitality, true intimacy, a desire that often remains unfulfilled by more conventional, sometimes superficial approaches. And it's practical because it offers a clear framework for consistent, sustainable intimacy that ideally works with your life, integrating more seamlessly rather than demanding an unrealistic overhaul or feeling like another demanding chore.
And the idea that any person can achieve this.
Yeah, that assertion is incredibly powerful and crucial, I think. It suggests that these principles are not exclusive to a select few with special aptitudes or inherent talents or specific backgrounds. It implies that the innate capacity for profound love, energetic connection, even spiritual intimacy is inherent in all individuals. It just needs to be understood, maybe awakened, and cultivated in a specific, conscious way.
So it democratizes deep intimacy in a way.
That's a good way to put it. It's about shifting one's perspective, learning to listen to the body and the partner on a deeper, more subtle level, and engaging with genuine intention and presence. It seems aimed at removing that common barrier of feeling inadequate or unequipped or not good enough, suggesting that with the right understanding and approach, anyone can potentially unlock these deeper, more enriching dimensions of their sexuality. It's less about achieving a specific physical feat or performance, and more about cultivating an inner state of openness, attunement, connection, which then naturally expresses itself physically, becoming a source of ongoing vitality and joy.
So with all these incredible possibilities and this philosophy of accessibility, how does one actually learn these principles and practices? The LoveFlow Online Academy seems to be the primary avenue for this. It offers courses on creating a more sustainable and nourishing long-term sex life, courses on how to reach your fullest and richest sexuality, and also courses that address all the most common sexual problems and difficulties. Can you maybe detail the specific course offerings mentioned, like Holistic Sex Complete and Perfect Lover for Men? How might they address the various aspects we've discussed?
Sure. The LoveFlow Online Academy serves as that practical bridge, moving from the philosophical framework we've unpacked to actionable, learnable practices. And the course titles themselves directly reflect the benefits and core principles we've explored, grounding the abstract into tangible pathways. For instance, a course focused on creating a more sustainable and nourishing long-term sex life, would logically delve into the longevity and easy-to-maintain aspects we talked about, teaching specific practices and mindset shifts that keep the connection alive, prevent routine, ensure sex remains a source of energy, not a drain. Hypothetically, this might include exercises in mindful touch, maybe sustained energetic connection, or practices fostering novelty through deeper emotional exploration.
And the fullest and richest sexuality courses.
Those would likely cover the greater richness and spirituality dimensions, guiding individuals to explore new ranges of sensation, cultivate that deeper integrated understanding of body, mind, feelings, and learn how to elevate intimacy to a potentially spiritual experience, maybe involving techniques for energetic circulation or fostering states of deeper presence and unity.
It also mentions courses for common problems.
Right, and that's important. Courses that address all the most common sexual problems and difficulties. This signifies that the holistic framework isn't just for those seeking more, but also potentially for those struggling with basic or persistent issues, low libido, performance anxiety, communication breakdowns, things like that. It suggests the holistic framework might provide comprehensive solutions by recontextualizing these issues within the broader energetic, emotional, spiritual landscape of intimacy.
And the specific courses, Holistic Sex Complete and Perfect Lover.
Well, Holistic Sex Complete sounds like it would be the overarching comprehensive offering, integrating all the elements: love, energy, richness, longevity, spirituality, maybe for both partners or individuals. Perfect Lover, for men, would then likely be tailored specifically to the male experience, perhaps focusing on how men can cultivate greater sensitivity, energetic control, presence, emotional attunement, to become more nourishing, deeply connected partners, tying into aspects like greater richness for themselves and their partners and those principles of energy that works for them rather than depleting them.
And what about the free content? You mentioned videos, podcasts, articles.
Yeah, that acts as an incredibly valuable and accessible entry point, doesn't it? This allows individuals to explore the core concepts, get a feel for Alexey's approach and teaching style, gain initial insights without commitment before deciding if they want to dive deeper into the structured courses. This kind of tiered access ensures that the philosophy and maybe preliminary practices of holistic sex are widely available, grounding these profound concepts in tangible, actionable learning for anyone who's curious to explore.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We've just unpacked a truly transformative vision of sex, really. One that fundamentally asks us to reconsider its very purpose and its profound potential. It shifts our understanding from seeing intimacy as something merely consumed, maybe, or experienced as a finite act, to a perspective where it becomes a potentially limitless source of deep, ongoing nourishment and connection.
A fundamental shift.
From moving beyond just okayness to embracing real love, profound connection, greater richness of experience, abundant, regenerative energy, long-term vitality, and even reaching deep spiritual dimensions. Holistic Sex, as presented by Alexey and LoveFlow Education, offers this comprehensive new vision for redefining intimacy, elevating it to a powerful, sustainable force for personal and relational well-being. It truly challenges the conventional wisdom that often limits our understanding of what sex can authentically be.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, maybe zoom out a little, this deep dive raises an important and I think incredibly thought-provoking question for each of us. What if approaching intimacy with the conscious intention of generating love and energy rather than solely seeking release or mere entertainment? What if that could truly regenerate not just our relationships, but actually transform our entire daily lives?
That's a big question.
It is. What is sexuality, when viewed holistically as this continuous source of well-being and vitality, could become a profound pathway to a richer, more connected, more alive existence, changing how we experience ourselves, our partners, and our world on a fundamental day-to-day level? It's definitely a powerful idea to consider.
Absolutely. We truly hope this deep dive has given you some compelling new perspectives and maybe a few resonant aha moments to ponder long after our conversation ends. Perhaps it sparked a deeper curiosity within you to explore the original source material and see how these fascinating ideas might resonate with your own experiences and aspirations for intimacy. Until next time, keep digging into what truly nourishes you in every aspect of your life.